Here. So module number 1 is research methodology. Let us first try to understand what is the research methodology. The term itself, what happens is the meaning of actual research is nothing. It refers to a kind of a knowledge. Okay, a lot of things are going on in day-to-day lives, even in the companies also, where you try to learn some new task or some new concepts. Right. The only thing is you need to define them, and how you define them, that will give me a particular meaning for this particular research, right? So once we define the word research, it can be scientific. Okay, scientific people do a lot of scientific research also, and then we have a systematic research. Two types of categorizations are there in the research. Okay, and in fact, one art of investigation, what we can say for the word research. Okay, investigation means something we try to learn, something we try to be very investigative, or when you try to go for search of some particular topic. Okay, for that we require some kind of a knowledge, right? So that is why many authors are there, many inventors are there, right? Many people are there who try to define the word research by their own, by the different definitions. Okay, one example what we can see here is Redman and Mori. They define the word research as it is a systematized effort to gain the knowledge, right? For example, I don't know anything, I want to go learn something, then I need to go for a research. Okay, indirectly what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to get the knowledge, get the new things done. So for that reason, they define the word as a research. And there are some people are there where they try to define the research in different manner, right? For example, a movement from a known to unknown quantity, right? I know something, but I'm trying to go for unknown quantity. That gap will give me a kind of a discovery. That gap will give me a kind of an invention. So that invention will become my research, right? So the meaning of research is doing something which is already done, or finding something which is already there or which is available. This is a generalized definition of research. Now, when you try to go for finding the word definition of a research in the form of an academic, right? So research in academic activity, it is basically give me a kind of a technical sense here, right? And again, people are there, like for example, Clifford Wood, they define the word research in the form of defining and redefining the problem, then formulating the hypothesis, right? For the meaning of formulating the hypothesis is nothing but you need to give a structure for that particular problem, right? For example, you have a problem like to write a code for multiplication of a two number. To do that, what things I require, how I try to phrase it out, how I go for designing my framework, right? So that is called as formulating the hypothesis, or at least by giving some kind of a suggestions, or by the solutions also, not doing it, but just by giving some kind of a solutions. But for that particular solution, I need to do a lot of things. Like for example, I need to collect the data, I need to organize the collected data, right? And then once I collect, organize, then I need to evaluate the data, right? So all those things will give me some kind of a conclusion, or either they give me some kind of a decision, right? And this whole concept of defining the problem, right? Formulating the hypothesis suggested by some kind of a solutions, collecting, organizing, and evaluating data will again define the word called as a research. So how you define the research? Research is nothing but defining or redefining the term, formulating the hypothesis, and suggesting the solutions by collecting, organizing, and evaluating the data, and making deductions or reaching to the conclusions, right? So that gives me a called as a research. Many things are also there, like people like Stephenson in Encyclopedia of the Social Science, they also define the word research as manipulating of the things. For example, I have done some kind of a study or an algorithm. I know one kind of an algorithm. I just try to modify that algorithm based on my requirement. So that becomes my research, right? In a very simple way, modification of or manipulation of the things is known as a research, or manipulating the existing concept will define the word called as a research, or making it very clarified or extended to that particular algorithm will give me a kind of a research. For all that, we require some kind of a knowledge, right? So this is how we try to define the word called as a research, right? Next, we'll try to go for understand why we should go for research. What are the various objectives of research, right? So what we have seen is, we have seen the introduction part, the meaning of research, right? Now let us go for the objectives of the research, right? So when we try to understand the this terminology, this particular value, right? We need to know some kind of a objectives for any work. There are well defined objectives are there, right? Just a minute. Fine. Right. Next is sorry, objective of research. Right. So when I try to know the meaning of research, right, then I need to go for defining its objectives. Right. The question may also come in examination. List the various objectives of research, or I can formulate the two different questions here. Right. First question is define research and list the objectives of research for 6 months. Right. So what do you mean by what are the various objectives of research now? Right. The first purpose of research is discovery, that we know, right? For discovery, we need to answer some questions, because for those questions, I need procedures, simple term, right? So the purpose of research is to discover the answers for a given solution or for a given problem definition by using some kind of scientific procedures. So therefore, the main aim of research is to find out the truth which is hidden somewhere and which is not discovered yet. So what does it mean? It means that completely I am doing something, a very new thing, which nobody has done till now. For that, I need to answer the questions for the criticism, or I need to answer the questions which the people ask, so that I can just come out of my whole research work, right? Though what happens here is a very scientific purpose, or what we say is like we need to think in a very broad manner, or sometimes narrow also, right? So let us see what are the various broadly classified objectives of research are. The first objective is to gain familiarity with the phenomena or to achieve new insight to it. So what do you mean by this is, my objective is, already I am doing some kind of a work, already available work is there. I want to gain the similarities or familiarities with the existing phenomena. For example, there is a one motorcycle is there, right? I want to develop the same motorcycle, same, no change at all. That is called familiar. But if I try to modify the new motorcycle with some existing or with some advanced mechanism in that, so that will become my research, right? So that is my objective, that I want to add something new insight, new definitions, new formulations, new framework for my study, right? So studies with these objectives is viewed as the term as exploratory or formulative type of research studies. The second objective is to portray accurately the characteristics of particular individual, situations, or a group of studies, or you can say known as, also called as a descriptive type of research. This is the different definitions we are coming. What do you mean by formulative research? What it says that you need to gain the familiarity with the phenomena existing, or you need to achieve the new insight. That is called as a formulative. You need to formulate, you need to define it, right? So what do you mean by descriptive is, for each work, you need to define its characteristics, or you need to portray accurately the characteristics of individual, right? Or for example, if there are 10 students are there, right? So for each students, I need to define its characteristics. Student 1 characteristic, student 2 characteristic, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 10. So the whole thing becomes my descriptive type of research study, right? Now based on situations also, based on group also. So that type of research will also known as a descriptive type of research study. The third objective, what I want to do with my research work is, I need to determine the frequency with which something occurs, or with which it is associated with something else, right? That is called as a frequency of occurrence. How many times I can do it, just like people do in the medical field, that they go for frequency of determining the blood samples, frequency of achieving the data, right? Some by time wise or frequency of occurrence, you can say. So that type of thing, where I can determine something which occurs, or something occurs because of that particular another thing. That type of research is known as a diagnostic research, right? And the last type is, or the objective is, I need to test the hypothesis of a causal relationship between the variables. Such studies are also known as hypothesis test research studies. What do you mean by finding the hypothesis of a causal relationship between the variables? Is nothing but how A is different from B. You need to define. So that is my objective. For example, capital A is there, capital B is there, right? So what is the relation? Is there any relationship between, is there any relationship is there between A and between B? So if it is there, how you do it, how you try to bring out the differences between A and B. So that type of study will give me as a hypothesis testing studies. Many tests are there. You need to apply some parametrics, you need to apply some formulative study, or you can go for a descriptive study, or you can go for a diagnostic study, and then you can come to one conclusion that A is completely different from B. Such type of research studies are known as hypothesis testing research. Fine. So there are total 4 objectives are there to define a particular research. So once we try to understand the definition and the objectives of research, then we'll go for what is the motivation, what motivation I get from this particular study or this particular research. There are different types of there are again different methods are discussed over here. So right. So first question here comes is, why people do research, or why they undertake the research activity, right? Why they try to study, or why they try to go for particular formulation of that particular research, right? So that is the first question, motivation. Because people need some kind of motivation to do. For example, you people are also doing some kind of projects, right? So to do that project, you need some kind of motivation, right? So from where that particular motivation will come, right? So that is the question. So this is a question of very, very fundamental importance, right? Some kind of possible motivation if I get to my particular research. They have listed some particular points, right? So the first point here is desire to get the research degree along with the consequential benefits. For example, people do PhD, right? So why I should do PhD, right? What is actually PhD there, right? So I want to get involved. I want some kind of a research degree. I want my PhD degree. For that, I will go for some research, right? So what is the motivation here to do a research? PhD degree is my motivation. So if I get a degree, so that will definitely benefit my whole life, or that will definitely benefit my academic, or I can do more number of research so that I can benefit the society. So that is the first motivation I can get for making me into the research. The second thing is desire to face the challenges in solving the unsolved problems, right? What does this mean? Showing some practical concern over the research, right? What people do, they do a lot of they take up the various challenges to solve the unsolved problem. For example, there is something, an incident has happened, right? Some problem has occurred. So what people do, out of their own concern, people will try to involve in that particular problem, and they try to solve the problem by taking challenge, right? So that is practically making it possible. It will initiate you. So that will give you a kind of a research. So the next time what happens, you need not have to go for a research. Directly you come to the conclusion, take the challenge and solve the problem, right? So that is the another motivation I can get where in such kind of studies, right? Now, the second is desire to get the intellectual joy of doing some creative work. Like you may have seen the students of a first standard to 7th standard, or even a very well-aged person are there, right? You take any age of person, if they are very interested in creative work, if they are interested in doing some drawing work, in some painting work, right? People have a lot of hobbies. Morning they go for a walk, right? Or some may go for evening. People find peace in going walk in morning. Some find peace in going walk in an evening, right? People enjoy rain, right? So it gives a kind of a joy to do that particular work. So that will give some kind of a motivation so that I can do this. For example, if I am a very good in painting, so if my first painting gives me a very beautiful picture, then definitely I will go for another painting, right? Why? Because my first painting has given me a kind of motivation for me, so that I can go for particular kind of painting work in future, right? So that is desire. It comes from the inner soul, whatever we say, right? Now the fourth point is to be a service to society. People do a lot of social works, right? Out of their own concern, they do. Why? They get motivation. They get self-motivated, right? I need this. Winter is coming. I need to help the people who are there on the street by providing them some kind of warm materials or warm clothes. So if I do some 10 activities, then definitely that will give me some kind of a motivation so that I can serve the society. So that is another type of a motivation in research. Then desire to get the respectability. So people, they don't do to earn the money. Some people, they do just for the respect, because if I do this particular work, definitely I will get respect in my society, right? Out of concern. It should not be like a kind of an attitude, or it should not become like a selfish kind of activity. Why I should do this? Why I should do this? What happens if I do this? Whether I will be get paid, whether I will get some kind of an incentives, right? Whether I will get something out of whatever the work I do. No, people do just for the sake of respect, right? So this is how there are totally 5 points they have mentioned here, how a person or how a researcher will take up the research work, or how they go for undertaking the research work for by this 5 different type of motivational points, right? So those may get more, people get more. There are different other aspects are also there, like they have mentioned, like factors like directives of some government, employment conditions, or for example, if you are attending some IAS exam, for first attempt, definitely you will come and reach to a near point, failed. Second time you will reach by 1 point. Third time, definitely you will crack. Why? Because it will give you some kind of a motivational from inner side, that if not this time, definitely I will go with the next time, right? Out of curiosity, people do a lot of things. Out of their own desire, people do a lot of things with some casual relationship, right? By thinking it very social, by awakening some kind of things in the society, by well motivating, right? So many things are there. People do research. Research is not only doing a PhD. A lot of things are there. Out of all those concerned, this many motivational things we get, right? So once we understand the definition of research, the objectives of research, right, the motivation of research, then the very important part is types of research. You need to define which type of research you want to do it, right? So there are basically some few different or couple of different research types they have mentioned, and on an average of 5 research we have different types of research. So if the question comes, explain, define research and explain the basic types of research, right? So the first is descriptive versus analytical. This is the difference. What do you mean by descriptive research, right? So descriptive research, basically it includes the surveys and fact finding inquiries of different kinds. And the major purpose of descriptive research is description of the state of affair as it exists in the present, right? Some kind of a social science, or it can be a business, which is quite often termed as ex post facto research for descriptive studies, right? And one of the main characteristics of the descriptive research is that we don't have any control over the variables, because all the times variables will be getting changed, reports are getting changed, right? The report which I collect or the work which I do at present, it may not happen tomorrow also, because it is descriptive. So that is why it is like varying with respect to time also, you can say. And most ex post facto research projects, they are basically used for descriptive type of research only. They have given, for example, as frequency of shopping, right? How many times people go for shopping, right? Day 1 they do this much of shopping, day 2 they will do this much. In a month, how many times a person will go for a research, right? Preferences of people, right? Or some kind of similar data, right? And also we have some post facto studies are also included, attempts which are done by the researcher to discover the cause of, even when they cannot control over the variables, where we don't have any control over the variables at all, right? Simply doing it, they take up the survey methods, right, by all the kinds. So a kind of a questionnaire will be there, try to solve those questionnaires, then definitely you will get to one conclusion and it will give you the results. So that is descriptive. No need of doing any kind of, just take all the data, collect the data, analyze the data, right? The second type of research is analytical research. What the analytical research will do, the researcher has the use of effect of information which is already available and analyze to make it critical evaluation of the material, right? For example, frequency of shopping. If a person is going for shopping all the days, all the 30 days, right? So what is the frequency of visit? 30 days, right? So I will try to analyze it. I will analyze it with the available existing data, that is descriptive data, and I will come to one kind of conclusion, critical evaluation of that particular material. Means that whether the shopping is required or whether it is not required. Is it necessary to go all the days? Is it necessary to go in the morning or in the evening or in the afternoon, or but after a couple of days leave and again go? So all will give me a kind of an analytical research, right? Most of the time analytical researches are a bit difficult to analyze than compared to descriptive, because in descriptive we don't do much of the things. We only collect the data and keep the data so that we will visualize it. But analytical collection of data, you need to critically evaluate that particular collected data. Then only your research will be complete, right? Now, the second type of research here is a fundamental, applied or fundamental research, very basic. That research can either be applied, right? Applied research, or it can be fundamental research. What do you mean by applied research is, applied research aims to find the solution for an immediate problem facing to a society or industrial or business organization. Simple definition we have. Whereas the fundamental research is mainly concerned with the generalization and with the formulation of theory, right? For example, like gathering of the knowledge, gathering knowledge of the knowledge sake is termed as pure or basic research, and the research concerning more about natural phenomena or relating some pure mathematical examples, how this formulation is done, how this by giving some generalized explanation or studying the human behavior will also give the fundamental research, right? Some kind of political solutions or some kind of identification, some kind of copy research, right? Some kind of evaluation based research, or sometimes it can be market based research. So they all come under the very basic and the applied research, right? But here you need to remember that the fundamental research is known as a basic, or it can be pure research also. Then very most important research is qualitative and quantitative research, right? Quantitative research is nothing but based on the measurement of quantity or amount, how much amount of research you are trying to do by taking how many number of values, right? For example, you are doing a 10, it is very less. If you are doing it 100, then it is very good, because taking some 10 numbers and doing the research, 10 variables and doing the research will give you a very minimized or very less efficient values of results. But doing it at a very large scale, it will give you more number of possibilities, right? So it is applicable to a phenomena that can be expressed as quantity, right? So that is called as quantitative research. So what do you mean by qualitative research? Qualitative research is nothing concerning with the qualitative phenomena, that is phenomena relating or involving quality of kind. For example, people go for quality kind of research when you try to go for market, or when you try to go for purchasing any kind of vegetables or fruits, right? We see the quality, not the quantity, right? If the quantities are 100, but if out of 100 only one fruit or one vegetable is only best, so we cannot say that is a very good quality. Quantity is nice, but quality is degraded quality, right? So that give me the difference between the quantitative research and qualitative research. And they have taken some example, like for instance, when we are interested in investigating the reasons for human behavior, right? So why people think or do so and so thing, we quite often talk motivation kind of a research, right? And one of the important type of qualitative research is nothing but motivation only by default. And this type of research aims to discovering the underlying motives and desires using the depth of interview for the purpose. The more you ask, the more you get the stories and more you get the solutions for that, right? So therefore, in simple terms, we try to define both the quality and quantitative type of research. Then the second is conceptual and empirical research. What do you mean by conceptual research? Is that some abstracts or ideas or theories are there. Conceptual, there is one concept is there, some abstract is there, right? Some theory is there. And it is in generally some philosophers and thinkers will try to develop a new concept, right? So there is one concept is there, people will try to dig that concept and they try to give some kind of a suggestion or interpretation with their own thinking and with their own developed skills, right? That is called as a conceptual. Then what do you mean by empirical? Is empirical research relies on experiences or observation done often without due regard of system and theory. We don't want theory, we don't want system, right? I only give my talk, or I will only give my suggestion or advice based on my experience, not based on the concept. Because sometimes what happens is concept based studies, sometimes they fail. But the studies which are done based on the experiences, based on the observation done they are sometimes often they are give you more conclusional remarks or the best remarks when they are done with the experimentation, right? So we can also call it as experimental type of research. Most of the time empirical studies are experimental because without experiment we cannot give conclusions, right? So that is the difference between conceptual and the empirical type of research. And the last type of research is some other types of research which they have mentioned here is all the other types of research are variations with one or the other above cited approaches. That is what total 6 based on their purpose of their research. It can be quality, quantitative, or empirical, or conceptual, or analytical, or it can be fundamental also, right? And on the other hand, some form of point of view can also think we can also think there also that one-time research or whether it is a longitudinal research. And in some former cases, some there are mentioned to a single time or one-time research, right? So research can also be field settling research, or some researchers are based on the laboratories also, or some kind of a simulation research are also. That depends on the environment, or depends on the how you are trying to carry out the work. And so the research can well understand as a clinical or diagnostic research. Most of the time they do in the medical field. These things happen, and such research follows some type of case studies or in-depth approaches to reach the basic causal relations, right? And other are also there, like exploratory is there, historical research we have, then conclusion oriented type of research where you need to conclude the whole state of art of information, or sometimes decision based researches are also there, right? So once we try to understand the simple definition of research, that definitely we can select what type of research we can do, or what type of study we can do, and then how we can try to conclude our research part, right? So with this topic of today's discussion, I will end here. So in the next video lecture class, we will study how we try to approach all those different methods, right? How we try to do the approach the based study, or how well it is categorized with the different type of activities or different researches, right? Thank you.